there are a few emotions जो बहुत easy होते हैं audience में provoke करने के लिए. These emotions are violence is one of them,
right,
and sex is another. वो सोचते हैं कि अगर हम बहुत ज़्यादा violence डालें, बहुत ज़्यादा sex डालें फिल्म में, तो उससे हमारी फिल्म कामयाब होगी. And I think that's a very wrong thing to do. And I think we are morally responsible.
In a society where you want films to be shown for everybody, you can be critical of it. You can be critical of the character. When you are writing it, you can write your point of view. You can't be of the opinion that you should not be making this film. Because there are 50 films that you agree with, there are other segments don't agree with. Don't do this. It's a bad precedent.
These are the two conflicting opinions that are floating around with Animal, a section of the audience believing that Sandeep Reddy Vanga is terribly irresponsible and glorifies vile acts through his story, and the second that imbibes the story for its fictional take, acknowledges it as a tale of a broken deranged man, gets invested for a 3-hour and 21-minute running time, and moves on. The chatter around the film, its elements and its impact have gone through the roof, quite reminiscent of Kabir Singh, making me believe that this discourse is going to carry on for weeks as the movie is all set to do humongous numbers at the box office. Everyone wants to give their 2 cents about the film and its impact, and this is leading to quite the name calling and shaming dependent on how you felt about the film. Through this video, I want to talk about the movie, its plot and its execution objectively, and what worked and did not work in the film for me personally. And you also do chime in with your thoughts about the same in the comments below. I believe there is a logical fallacy in the introduction of old Ranbir celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Swastik with his mates, because it showcases an old Ranvijay in 2056. So one can assume that he is alive years after the birth of Aziz Haq, who has done plastic surgery to become his lookalike. So you've already set in stone that Ranvijay would win the battle against Aziz as he is alive in 2056. I can confirm that Ranvijay is the old Ranbir represented in the opening scene because Ranvijay is the only one who references the story between the monkey and the mantri at his father's 60th birthday while he is arguing with his brother-in-law. There are conspiracy theories that the opening scene actually represents Aziz Haq imitating Ranvijay, but the story referenced at the party nullifies this theory. I think the integration of old Ranbir actually was just a method with which Sandeep Reddy Vanga can break the fourth wall and address the public and what he thinks about their criticism. Is it petty? Yes. Is he totally game to do it? Of course yes, it's his film. So I feel the old Ranbir represents more of a cue to the critics by Sandeep Reddy Vanga than a plot point with old Ranbir. One can of course debate about the same. There is foreshadowing that you may have missed in the film. When young Ranvijay is seeking for his father on his birthday, his mother tells him that he's such a busy man and it'll be best if we make a clone. Ranvijay disagrees and states that it'll be easier to create a body double, something that is executed by Ranvijay years later as Balbir Singh's lookalike is utilized to act as a decoy. Sandeep Reddy Vanga, even with this film, absolutely kills it with his hero's introduction. The mullet, the leather jacket, Ray-Bans and Roja's Chinni Chinni Asha plays in the background. It absolutely set the tone for the film so well. Everyone revisiting the score because of the movie, and no wonder A.R. Rahman is thanked in the opening credits. This is where the romance gets established, with a funny scene referencing Ranvijay's annoyance that he has been made a brother and that both him and Gitanjali always had a thing for each other. This is where Rashmika slightly stumbles in her dialogue delivery, mumbling through most of her lines that people could not decipher. I must confess, she grows into her role like fine wine. An actress trolled so mercilessly actually should be given props on how she progressively got better in the film. In my review, I said Sandeep has made less of a contemporary gangster film and more a period epic, and this becomes clear from the first conversation in Ranbir pitching himself as a worthy candidate by referencing the world of hunters and gatherers and how he's the alpha Gitanjali should choose. While the reference of the old world still delivered in terms of intention, the big pelvis description I've realized is more a Sandeep thing and his fascination of describing anatomy than an animal thing. I think think irrespective of the occupation, theme and storyline of the film, Sandeep Reddy Vanga likes describing body parts of characters in a scientific manner, and while this worked organically in Kabir Singh as the characters were mainly doctors, it seemed quite out of place in this film. You know what's the most frustrating part about the film upon second watch? What you realize is that the horcrux of the film is actually just a simple conversation with Ranvijay's Dada played by Suresh Oberoi. This is the same problem that both Ranbir's films Tu Jhoote Main Makar and Brahmastra suffered from. A simple conversation was the solution. If Ranbir and Shraddha spoke about their real problems, no one would have to pretend. If Amitabh Bachchan just told Shiva about his origin story early rather than prolonging it till shit hits the fan, things would be easier. You realize when Suresh tells Ranvijay that the Tabbar story is too complicated and see the overextended running time of Animal, you realize how much of the unnecessary elements of the film could be edited for a crisper and way more engaging edit. A simple conversation about the warring brothers and this history of swastik actually would nullify even the need for Tripti Dimri's character. More on that later. What I realized in this overall characterization of Ranvijay is that there is slight inconsistency on his outlook on women. He is progressive and acknowledges his sisters and free-thinking independent women, but progresses to become demeaning and contradictory of these same character traits. I think Sandeep tries to justify the same by showcasing a character's descent into becoming a barbarian. That is why the Animal title card also comes in so late, where Ranvijay before and after the assassination attempt are two different people. A loyal and loving husband transitions to become a filthy and deranged animal. The two things that I noticed, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that Ranbir executed the Hrithik acting element of rage. If you've seen Hrithik movies, you've seen his face shaking in many instances where his character is filled with anger. And this is something that existed in close-up shots of Ranbir too, whenever he is livid in Animal. The second thing, slightly wholesome, is that the most surprising aspect of the film is that Shakti Kapoor plays a wholesome and loving uncle, almost like a father figure to Ranvijay. Who knew we would see this day for Shakti Kapoor's acting career too? I think it's pretty evident that the college sequence where Ranvijay protects his sister by storming into the college with a gun was quite the ode to Kabir Singh. A sequence that is absolutely nuts, followed by an insight into the toxic relationship shared between the main character and his father. You realize why there is such an animosity and distance between them, as with every minor argument, Balbir deems it fit to slap him across the face. An underrated scene that I love is Ranbir's expression when Balbir insinuates that he is interested in the swastik shares and compares him to Varun, the brother-in-law. You can see his heartbreak that his father thinks he is in it for the money. Even further when he does not even acknowledge his new relationship. One aspect that really pisses off female viewers of Sandeep Reddy Vanga movies regarding the depiction of women is how they're constantly seeking for the validation of the man. Kiara's first dialogue to Kabir is, "What do you like in me?" One of the initial conversations Rashmika has with Ranbir is, "How is it for you?" Almost head over heels already before even having an idea of their personalities. It's only when the women are in too deep in these toxic relationships where they dictate their opinions. You see this when Preeti makes Kabir kiss her publicly, or when Rashmika challenges Ranbir when he shames her for wearing lingerie. I think one of the main reasons why audiences rooted for Ranvijay despite his frailties as a personality was that he was loyal to his wife. He on the airstrip confesses that "Main tumhe kabhi dhoka nahi dunga." So it is set in stone that he might be crazy obsessed for validation from his father, but at least he will never break her trust. He even is disgusted with his cousin's philandering ways with prostitutes. So it's set in stone he's a one-woman man. This relationship of rooting for Ranvijay, I must say personally for me, takes a nosedive the moment he cheats on her for a sorry excuse to get to the bottom of the case. The Tripti Dimri angle of the film has to be the most frustrating and confusing one, as it gives free rein for the hero to cheat on his wife because he is so blind on his mission. If he is hell-bent on doing anything to prove his loyalty to his father, then why did he not use a condom? Why did he hesitate in killing her when asked by Rashmika? There is an undeniable argument that he got feelings too. He had problems being intimate with his wife even before the accident, by the way. Technically, the first half of the film is so spectacular. The walk-in with the blue suits as Harshvardhan Rameshwar's trance track plays in the background, the chokehold on Varun, the wide shot that goes from the top, the crazy manic energy in Ranbir's eyes, it all works great with the tubber that is perfectly cast. Ranbir, upon knowing his father has been shot, showing his family like SRK from K3G, and you get a glimmer of love from Balbir, as he says that his son's voice echoed in his ear when he first got shot, and how he felt all alone on the second. This is where Ranvijay takes over, and many were confused on why the company of Swastik were baying for blood. You have to realize that the Swastik company is described as a generational company, so it's more like a cult rather than just a regular company. Think of it as Subroto Roy at the peak of his career with Sahara, and how the employees idolized him. He's less like a boss and more like a godman for them. I mean, for God's sake, they do a 300 chant on Ranbir's speech, so you know they're ready to kill for their own. I still got goosebumps in the sequence where Ranbir recruits the Tubber, the band of brothers unite, and the scene where the cousins come in and touch Balbir Singh's feet one by one as the drum plays in the background was exceptional. The fascination of Sandeep, however, for anatomy continues, as one describes the hand the father uses while he urinates, the rash in their underwear, the importance of letting pubes grow, all unnecessary scenes in my opinion that just prolong the film's running time. As everyone has already stated, the action sequence in the interval block is masterful, especially going in high gear as Arjun Valley played and the crowd actually went wild. A beautiful case of a director editing the action to the music. Dolby Walia also came out of syllabus, a Marathi song followed by the Punjabi banger, and that 360-degree shot of Ranvijay annihilating everything in his way was just peak cinema. You know, while all of this is happening, what I was interested in? Who is Bablu Prithviraj? Before Ranbir killed him, why did he not inquire who Abid is? How is it that 28 days pass in his coma and they have zero intel about Bablu Prithviraj and this Abid character? A simple conversation or inquiry with the family would have solved this. More importantly, what is this fictional world where hundreds of people are murdered in a hotel and there is no sign of the police? The excuse probably being that the richest man in the country can get away with anything. It is when the second half starts where the disoriented Ranvijay starts hurling abuses everywhere, the brunt of which has to be endured by Gitanjali. These are the most uncomfortable portions of the film, and it can be defended only if you reference the sorry physical and mental state Ranvijay is in. With his heart failing, his mind only deems it fit to make everyone his enemy, even his wife. This is where he insults a brahmachari, gives horror details to the father of the church, and it's all just a representation of his descent into madness. I, however, just patiently waited for why the has Bobby Deol still not been introduced? This is where I also feel Sandeep integrated more dialogues for shock value than actually how characters would interact with one another. Unnecessary elements like Gaumutra, a threat to the wife of slapping her, making up mid-argument by making her hear the audio of the first time they had sex, it's all just in weird territory and taking away the high Sandeep left us with at the interval. He gets triggered by sign language, he punishes Rashmika with some BDSM bra whips, mocks her for complaining about pad changes, and it all really makes the screenplay such a drag. Bobby is finally introduced, and there is finally some pickup with the film, and what most people in the audience were curious about, a Bobby in great form being introduced with the song Jummal Jummalu, which has actually become the banger from the album most people are replaying and searching about. The news of his brother's deaths, the blood-soaked Bobby and the abuse he hurls at his wife's, he just set the tone of the villain as he mourns his brother's death, and you've built this up so well, only to transition again to Ranbir and his marital issues, and he gets involved with Zoya. I wanted to scream to the screen, oh, why we're diving deep into this? Why are we not exploring this family dynamic and why there is so much of conflict? Why are we going back to Ranbir starring in Pati Patni Aur Wo? Bobby is completely abandoned and we see Ranbir and Tripti get it on for a long duration of time as he makes a hickey colored Rolls Royce just for her. It completely derails the film in my opinion. Upon Tripti confessing that Ranvijay's brother is becoming his lookalike to kill his family, Ranvijay confesses that he orchestrated the blast so that she can confess this. Intel about Bobby and the master plan in my opinion could have easily been extracted from a single conversation with Suresh Oberoi and actually given more time to explore the family dynamic. How did he become a mute? Why was his grandfather chucked out of Swastik? Actually build up the resentment and anger versus leaving it just as a passing remark in the film. I again say, Rashmika absolutely shines in the argument with Ranbir, a scene for which she was trolled in the trailer. She is absolutely raw and emotionally naked in confronting Ranbir, who has some weird logic to defend his cheating, and mind you, not wearing a condom. Also going out of his way to tell Gitanjali she isn't capable of cheating on him. I would recommend you actually watch a scene shared between Julia Roberts and Clive Owen in the film Closer, and how they get into the ugly details of infidelity. It really reminded me of that scene. The ultimate battle, the confrontation scene between the father and son, and Ranbir still not getting the warm embrace of his father was a befitting end to this twisted saga. But I genuinely wish for this massive slump not to exist in the screenplay, especially in the second half. Animal Park will show two warring Ranbirs at it with one another, if it does happen of course. With the assumption that Ranbir is Dev and Brahmastra 2, we might get two Ranbir films as two Ranbirs go head to head with each other, which might be slightly overkill. I must say, I haven't seen more crazy in Ranbir's eyes than the last frame of the film, that was so reminiscent of Surya's Rolex. I want to conclude by saying there are three factions with this film. One, accepting this as a depiction of the full deterioration of a person from a progressive, protective and loyal brother and son to a barbaric animal with no morals, and two, as an anti-hero who has been glorified for his acts. Is it necessary to inflict pain on his wife? Is it necessary to be demeaning towards her? Is it necessary to create a plotline where he is unfaithful to his wife while he promises her that he would never break her heart? More importantly, does he get the punishment he deserves, because there is an insinuation that Rashmika doesn't leave him as the son comes running back to hug him? Is the irritation that the punishment isn't harsh enough? Like Shah Rukh Khan got death in Dar and Rais, like Radhe from Tere Naam was found in a mental asylum completely hopeless of life. Also interestingly, who decides what is the fitting punishment? These are all genuine questions. And then there is me, the third section, who just wanted an exploration of the depth of the relationship between the father and son, and why it was so toxic, and more compelling subjects like Bobby Deol and his backstory that ties into Balbir and the family. This is what we needed. To explore the trauma that made him, the trauma that made Bobby a mute, the sheer anger that they have for the Balbir family, and what exactly caused the rift in this swastik company. This is not something that you can leave for Animal Park, because it would have worked perfectly for the ultimate battle, and for us to be invested in the story through the long-running minutes, rather than getting such a slump with Tripti Dimri and the marital issues with Rashmika. It is what it is, a mixed bag indeed still for me. And that was the video, guys. Write down your spoiler-filled thoughts regarding Animal. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.